Hi guys, I'm Dushyant Dubey, known as Saint Broseph on Reddit, and you're listening to Just Baat.
I'm a fool for your love.
Hey guys, welcome back to Just Baate. My name is Aswin, and like always, I have Praatibh alongside with me. Praatibh, I've always repeatedly brought this up of how you're a corporate slave and how you travel to office every single day. He uses public transport, by the way. So, what I want to know is if while traveling through autos or buses, have you seen something that you hold on to or an experience that you think about?
So I think Bangalore, firstly, is a very interesting city in terms of if you use public transport because you're always going to see something interesting on the roads.
Yes.
And I'm sure you'll see rounds on the internet of pictures where someone has stopped their bike on the side and is using their laptop logging into some meeting.
Yes.
So that's something I've actually seen a fair bit, and I also see it like when I travel in an auto or in a bus. I've seen people take meetings from the Volvo bus because they're stuck in traffic. So that kind of thing is very common. So yeah, that, and apart from that, I think something that is somewhat underrated, I feel, is that like the people are very heartwarming and helpful. Like I remember my first day of office and I didn't know the location of my office, and this auto dude just dropped me for free for like, it was a 6 kilometer thing.
Really?
And yeah, he's just like, it's a free ride, it's fine, because like he was telling me how a lot of people get confused in this area and like it's pretty normal, so he just gave me a free ride for 6 kilometers.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful,
so
dude.
that
Damn.
was cool.
I didn't know that, but guys, today we have a very special guest who is a heartwarming person, but also helps people get through adversities of different kinds. He's the kind of hero we didn't know we needed. A lot of people in Bangalore will know him. A lot of people in the subreddit of Bangalore especially will know him. He is someone, I mean, there's a lot to talk about him. There's a lot to find out. Also, why we have him on our show, Broseph, aka Dushyant. Thank you so much for joining in.
So yeah, how we usually start each episode is whenever our guest comes on, we first have an icebreaker, and then from there we ease into the questions. So, Dushyant, the thing I want to ask you is, you stay in Bangalore. I want to know what is one thing about Bangalore that if you had the opportunity, you could take with you wherever you go. Could be anything. Could be a cafe. Could be some characteristic of Bangalore. What would you say?
I think the thing about Bangalore that I would retain with me no matter where I go is, the local culture. I think a lot of people that come from other cities to Bangalore, they don't quite get out of their Indiranagars and Koramanglas to explore,
Yes.
what the city is all
Right.
about and what it has to offer. And I feel like once you actually go out and interact with the people in in their actual neighborhoods, and you sort of like, whenever I've been to a Kannadiga's home, the amount of warmth and love that I've received, just from knowing them. Not even It's not even the people that I've done something for, just the people that I've come across randomly, like through my friends or whoever, their families and things like that. The warmth and just the lovely, rich, colorful culture, the all the local traditions and customs, and all these different kinds of things.
Right.
I think that's what makes Karnataka very unique, and the people are actually very hospitable and very friendly.
Yes.
It's a little bit of a misnomer that Kannadigas are not friendly towards outsiders. It's more of the other way. Like, a lot of outside people don't really make the effort to
Right.
get involved more with the community. So if you try to get involved, they're very sweet, they're very welcoming and nice. So I think the warmth of this culture and the richness of this culture. So I'm sorry if I'm taking a little bit of time here, but the other thing, it's a little deep, but I'll tell you anyway. I'm from originally from a state called Madhya Pradesh. Okay, so Madhya Pradesh, obviously central India. It doesn't really have an identity of its own in a cultural sense, because it's just a region carved out of, like the center part of India. That's literally what it's called. Madhya Pradesh, the central India, the central state. That's it, right? So unlike Karnataka, it doesn't really have, like, if you look at Karnataka history, right, from the Kadamba times, right, and then you go into Rashtrakutas and all your Hoysala dynasty and everybody.
Oh, you know
Everybody did.
history. That's so cool.
Yeah. So I'm just, trying to answer this question with history. Kannada literature, Karnataka's unique culture has been developed over many centuries. And then, of course, the Mysore Kingdom, right? So
Right.
the culture and Vijayanagara Empire. So the culture and traditions of Karnataka have been developed over many centuries, thousands of years
That's
by
true.
the locals here. And then you have your more modern and contemporary, literatures such as your Kuvempu and DVG and Manjeshwar Goenka and all these people who have done so much to, add to the richness of this culture. And that's why the Kannadiga culture is so strong and so, colorful and beautiful. When I look at my state or where I come from, originally from MP, the thing is our states were so ravaged by poverty and invasions and, like a lot of issues like that our people were barely above this poverty level to be able to do anything.
Right.
But we still have our cultural elements, but I feel like the richness of Karnataka's culture is something that I would take with me. That's something that I would like to retain with me, and I'm very much in love with it. I'd love to even add to it in my own way if I can.
That's such a beautiful answer, because for us, like a lot of people our age, we associate Bangalore with cafes and restaurants and clubs and everything. And the idea of Karnataka having a culture which also belongs in Bangalore, it's still part of Karnataka. I think people need to talk about that a lot more. I love that answer. Now, getting into what you do, guys, listeners and viewers, he is a social worker, but we're going to break this down a little bit. So you are a social worker, right? And I want to know what makes someone a social worker, because everyone in some way contributes to the society. So why do you call yourself a social worker, and what makes someone a social worker?
Okay, so the way I would like to answer that question is how you prioritize certain things in your life is what you sort of identify yourself as, right? Like, for example, if someone plays football and football is their main priority in life, but they also have a job somewhere, they work somewhere to feed themselves and they contribute to their struggle while they're still a struggling football player, they would still identify as a footballer first over anything else, because that's kind of where they come from, and that's their priority in life. For me, the reason I call myself a social worker is because social work is my priority in life. It's what I'm able to do, because and then it's I don't consider myself that I'm doing anything great. It's just I'm in a position to be able to do this because I don't have a lot of responsibilities when it comes to my family, and I don't really have dependents. I'm not married. So, because of that, I'm able to spend a considerable amount of time working on, social causes and also helping people as much as I can. So I think it depends on how you prioritize your time and how you prioritize what it is in your life that you prioritize, that you can identify yourself as. And that is why I identify as a social worker first, mostly.
When you introduce yourself to when you introduce yourself to a stranger and you call yourself a social worker, have they given a remark that hasn't gone down well with you? Like, I'm just assuming they'd ask you, do you do a real job, or is this it? Have you come across that?
Yeah, so generally I introduce myself as per the context of the situation. So yeah, if it's a social gathering, where my relatives and all are there, I won't go and introduce myself as a social worker. I'd say, oh, I'm such and such, my name is Dushyant and I work at Mahindra, that which is my actual job, right? So exactly. Like I just want to make sure that I'm not immediately judged, and obviously the person, if they have no context or I'm not meeting them under the context of being a social worker. Now, as opposed to that, if I go to a police station to file a complaint on behalf of somebody, then I would say I'm a social worker and I do this and this, and that's why I need you to help me out. So that's kind of where it is. But to answer your question, as a social worker to somebody, I've had people ask me if I'm a politician, or if and they generally ask me, okay, social worker, but what organization? That's the most common question that I have from people, that social worker, but what organization? I say it's not necessary for you to be a social worker only if you're associated with an NGO or with an organization. All it requires is the right spirit in your heart to be able to do it, and of course the ability to prioritize it over other things. So whenever someone asks me if I work for an NGO, I understand that they're doing it out of their curiosity and just because they think that that's what the natural association of the word social work
Right.
is with.
Right.
But I just find it a little bit, what do I say? There's no, like, I don't have anything to say about their question. It's just that I wish more people understood that you could be a social worker without being associated strongly with any organization as well.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest, I was very naive. Even I thought, like, for a lot of years while growing up, I thought you had to associate yourself with someone to do anything for the society. But yes, guys, we know we're calling him a social worker. You sit through the episode to know what he does, because he does so many things and helps a lot of people. Take it up.
Yes. Now, talking about this line of work also, how long have you been doing it for? And was there any incident in your life, or was there something that you witnessed that made you sort of want to do this?
That's a wonderful question. I was raised in a family which not it's not that my dad was like inclined towards doing social work, but he organized a lot of community events and things like that. And he would like my dad used to distribute plants to kids, so that they could
Okay.
get into the habit of raising plants and understand and develop a early connection with plants and gardening and things like that. So my dad would give these out. He had a plants nursery, so he would literally distribute lakhs of small saplings to children. So I saw my dad doing a lot of like giving back to the community a lot from a very young age. Also, he would organize Indian classical concerts and have like all these struggling musicians come and perform. So he would organize concerts for them and things like that. So my dad, that way, he did his bit in giving back to the society. So I was obviously raised in an environment where that kind of thing was, ideal. Like it was seen in an idealistic sort of manner that this is something good that you can do. But then as I grew up, there was so I always grew up with like having some empathy for pretty much everybody around me and that kind of an environment. And then I'll come to the the second part of the question, which was that one incident. But just to sort of describe it, and then as I grew up, I had a very strong interest in rock and specifically metal music.
Right.
So I used to organize concerts. And I organized concerts, metal concerts, and I had all the bands in Ahmedabad. So my family had moved to Ahmedabad in Gujarat. So I would organize concerts with all these Ahmedabad bands that were struggling to get slots in any other shows, because metal concerts is something that people didn't really want to organize. Like, guys would organize rock concerts and they would not allow the metal bands to play because they feared that if in between all this nice Pearl Jam and RHCP and all, if some guy starts covering Cannibal Corpse, then it's going to be a problem.
Right.
So there were a lot of very talented metal musicians in Ahmedabad that just didn't have a platform. So I started this thing called Metalabad when I was about 17 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and I started organizing concerts, and my concert tickets were almost like, they were always 50 rupees or 100 rupees, that kind of an amount. And we don't have alcohol in Ahmedabad, so in Gujarat. So there was no way for us to get sponsorships, and there were no venues either. There were no venues for us to organize concerts at. So we had to kind of set up our own venue somewhere, get the sound, get the lights, and do everything. So when I did that, and I organized these concerts, I initially did it because of my love for the music. But when I saw the musicians really thanking me and saying, bro, thank you so much for organizing this concert and getting us so many people, because I was a good promoter, so I was able to get a lot of people to come and check out the concerts. And I mean, I don't know if this sounds ridiculous, but I organized these concerts where 500, 1,000, 1,500 people showed up just to listen to like 6 hours of metal in Ahmedabad, in a place like Ahmedabad.
Wow.
Yeah, which you would associate with a different kind of music.
And
right?
how
Like
long
Gujarat.
back was this?
This was 2010. Yeah, so very long time ago, 12 years ago now. So when I saw that and I saw how much the people enjoyed it, so that sort of that's sort of where I developed this connection that I should do more, to do something about artists and people who want to. So that sort of inculcated in me the spirit of doing without expecting, which is what's the message in Bhagavad Gita, right? Like, you do your karma and you don't expect anything back. That's sort of where, through practical application, I was able to, get that within me. And it gave me more satisfaction than anything else. I was already working by that time. So I would get these checks. I had my own business as well. So I would get checks from Google, because we ran websites with ads. So we would get checks from Google, and that check never gave me the satisfaction than seeing 500 people enjoying a metal concert did. So just to be able to do something for people is what I experienced the most satisfaction from, and that is kind of where I feel like that was the sort of like the catalyst of me wanting to do more in this direction. But I'll share that one experience with you. Now this is something that very few people know about me. Even my friends don't know, because I don't like to mention it. But now that we're talking, I might as well bring it up. I was into boxing, and I was a competitive boxer and powerlifter, weightlifter. You can, powerlifting slightly different.
Yeah.
So I used to be on this website called bodybuilding.com,
Right.
back in the day. This I'm talking about 2007.
Right.
Okay. So this is still in the early years of the internet, right? So there were, I used to be there very active, because I used to talk to people. I used to try to take advice from them. And I also knew enough to be able to help out some new people as well. Plus, it was just a fun place to be, and I just moved to Ahmedabad like a year or so ago, didn't have too many friends. So I, like a typical nerd, I would hang out online. So, but then one day, and I was already working by that time. So I'm a ninth standard dropout. I dropped out and I completed my education through open schooling. So I was already working. So I came back from work one day, and there was a post on that forum about this individual, this guy that was a regular on the forum. He posted that he was about to overdose on pills and commit suicide, and he was going to broadcast it live. This is before Twitch. This is before YouTube Live. This is before Instagram Live, right? This is way back in the day. There was this website called Justin.tv, which where people, that was like one of the first websites where you could sort of broadcast yourself,
Right.
Doing whatever you were doing. And this guy, his name was Abraham Biggs. He posted there that, he was about to take those drugs. And so when I stumbled across that thread, it had already been a few hours, right? It had been 2 or 3 hours, and his stream was on. It was still running, and you could see that he was sort of on his bed, just his back turned towards the camera, and he wasn't moving. So I saw the thread. On the thread, people were saying, "Oh, he just does this for attention," and some guys were like, "Okay, do it." When he posted, they were like, "Do it. Who the fuck cares? Just go ahead and do it." And very derogatory ways. People were egging him on. Even on the stream, people were egging him on, like, just do it. I don't want to say the words, but they were being very, So this guy was like 19 years old, young black guy in Florida, really popular with his friends, but also had his own issues. I believe he was very depressed. And depression can happen to anybody, right? Like, 100%, it doesn't require you to be like lonely, or it doesn't require you to be doing very badly in life for you to get that.
You can have all the friends you want. You can be the richest man in the world, and it'll still hit
absolutely
you.
Absolutely. So he had what you would on surface consider an ideal life. Like if you went to his MySpace, so there was no, I don't remember if there was a Facebook back then, but there was MySpace. Yeah. So if you saw his MySpace, he was quite active, and you could see, he had lots of friends and everything. But he did this, and then even the moderator of that forum, or not moderator, one of the senior members of that forum, she said, "Oh, he does this all the time. He's done this attention whoring before, so just let him be." I, as a 16-year-old at that time, I was just like, guys, he's not moving, like, and they were like, it's a loop. He has put a loop, so he's just trying to fool us. And because I was quite tech savvy back then as well, I saw that and I compared a couple of frames and I said, guys, he's not moving. It's not a loop. It's a real video. He's not moving. The light is changing in his room. And nobody knew his name. Nobody knew anything about him. So I dug out his information. I found his name, his phone number. I did that like using the ways that internet used to be a lot more primitive back then. Security measures and all were very weak. So you were able to easily hack into things. So I somehow was able to find more information about him, and I posted it there. I was like, guys, this is his phone number, this is his name, this is where he lives. I knew that he lived in Florida somewhere. So please call the cops. I'm in India And plus, I'm a kid, like I'm 16 years old. I don't even have a phone that can make international calls. So please do something. And then they were like, no one's doing anything. Nobody was doing anything. And this guy is just like basically dying, and they're not doing anything. So I sent an email to the Miami police department. The email bounced. It wasn't working. This is before Twitter. So it wasn't like you could just tweet to them. So email bounced 3 times. Then it was late in the night for me. So I went to my parents' bedroom. I got my dad's phone and I called the Miami Police Department from India. And I said, hey guys, my voice was quivering. Like even now when I'm recollecting it, it's not exactly, very easy for me to recall all this. So my voice was quivering. I was a child, right? And I just told them that, this is what's happening. A guy has overdosed on pills and he's dying in his apartment. Can you guys please do something to help him out? And they didn't quite understand the whole situation, because internet was new, these kinds of things. Nobody knew about live streaming, and all that. So they were just like, okay, fine. And they kept transferring me to different people until they finally connected me. Somebody realized that this is an emergency. And they connected me to the emergency line of the Miami Police Department. So I gave them the phone number, the name and everything. And then they went, and the person on the emergency line said, listen, this is Broward County. This number is from Broward County in Florida. So I'm giving you the number of the Broward County Sheriff's Office. Call them and tell them. I was like, can't you do that? Like you expect me to make another international call? But I didn't say it, but I thought that. Whatever. So they gave me the number. I posted that number also. I posted that I've had this conversation. They've asked me to call these guys. Again, I felt like no one was going to call. So I called from my mom's number because my dad's number had ran out of, balance, because back then it was all prepaid, right? So very few postpaid connections were there. So then I took my mom's number, my mom's phone and called them. And they said, we just received a call about this. Apparently somebody from the forum called them. So they said, we just received a call about this guy and we are on it. Officers will be there, deputies will be there in a few minutes. So don't worry. I said, okay, fine. So then we turned on the stream and we were just watching, and in 15 minutes, you had cops busting in and, they busted in, they checked him. He had already passed away by that time, but we didn't know until a few hours later when I think his sister posted it on the forum that, Abraham has passed away. So because nobody intervened for the longest time, nobody cared enough. People were so disconnected from just because he's behind the screen, he's some stranger on the internet. They didn't think to care about him. That was what caused his death, because he could have been saved the moment he did it. If somebody would have called the cops, he would have been saved immediately. But because nobody bothered, and there was a very big, huge lack of empathy for things happening online, people just felt like it was like a game or something, they didn't really take it very seriously. That's when the guy passed away, and me being at that age in my formative years, it had a big impact on me, because I felt like if only I would have returned from work a little sooner, maybe I would have been able to save him. But I didn't blame myself as such, but I felt like I didn't do enough or couldn't do enough, and then I just sort of adopted this whole, I just wanted to do as much as I can to help people, from that point onwards.
I don't think you understand this. You said you did things what everyone should have done, but that's the difference though. That's the difference. Not a lot of people do it. And if you think, it's very easy for me to tell you this, and I'm sure you have already thought about this, but the fact that you think you could have done a lot more, buddy, you were 16 years old, and I just think I'd switch off the stream just because of how scared I am. The fact that, of course, you were fearful for his life, but you did everything you did, that's incredible. And if you even for a second think you could have done a lot more, you should know that you did so much more than what anyone in that live stream did. So you should be proud of that.
Now, Dushyant, talking about, so we know that you've helped people through a variety or range of situations, be it something related to harassment or fights with a tenant, or just helping people get in touch with blood banks or blood donations, all of that. So firstly, this is a lot of responsibilities, and there are different methods to all of these things. So do you have like a set of steps, I guess, that you follow for each of these things?
Yeah, so that's another good question, and I would like to tell people about my methodology. So even if someone else wants to do it, they can do it. Generally, what I try to do is, instead of reacting immediately to something, like I'll take the example of, you know, uh, let's say sexual harassment, which is the most
Okay.
common thing that people approach me
Right.
for. Like somehow, somewhere, they've been harassed by somebody, in some way, like a guy stalking them, or a guy, there have been unfortunately situations where girls have gone through rape,
Right.
and they've contacted me, or maybe they're facing some harassment at work. So then the most important thing that I feel like my step one is obviously to get all the details of
Right.
the situation.
Right.
So, and obviously to also first see whether the victim is comfortable talking about it, or how comfortable they are, or how much are they willing to share. So I've had instances where the victim is not giving me all the details because they're so traumatized that they cannot regurgitate the details again, right? So in that case, I just sort of give them their time, give them their space. I'm like, see, I'm here, I'm here to talk whenever you want to, whenever you feel like you can. And then I keep checking up on them. I don't leave them alone when they're in such a situation. So immediately I don't want to, come on too strong and say, okay, fine, tell me everything, let's go to the police right away, and this and that.
Right.
First, it's important to see what their mental situation is like, what they're dealing with. Now, obviously, with a thing like, your owner is causing you problems with your accommodation, that's something that's, I would say, that still has its own, trauma, but it's not so like extreme that you cannot talk to them, or you cannot try to ask them things. But with things like sexual harassment, sometimes it takes time. So I try to see whether they're in a position to talk, and once they are, I try to get as many details about the case as I can out of them, because there's also the problem of perspective. Sometimes the way you see things, you see that maybe you're the victim, but maybe the person, I'm not talking about sexual harassment here, I'm talking about like a tenant and an owner sort of a situation here. So when a tenant is being harassed by the owner, perhaps the tenant is actually at fault, and the owner is just doing something that's a bit of an asshole move, but they are genuinely trying to evict this guy because maybe there's some problem. So while I'm not like in any position to judge a situation, I try to make sure that I get all the details, and then after that, generally what I do is I ask them, okay, fine, this is what your situation is. These are the possible solutions that I think we can go for, and these are the possible repercussions of each step that we take. But no matter what the repercussions are, I'll be here with you. Even if it results in a court case, if it results in you needing a lawyer, if it results in multiple hearings, I will come with you. Don't worry, I'll be there with you throughout the whole thing. So let's say, like I said, if it's a sexual harassment case, I tell them, okay, you know what? I think we have enough material here for a case. We can go to a police station. We can file an FIR, a complaint, an FIR, whatever. And then we can take this case forward. So their concerns, then I have to address their concerns. They'll say, what about my identity? If my parents find out, if something like this happens. And I assure them that, listen, I understand your concerns. We will go through the DCP of the area, or we'll go through the police commissioner, and we'll make sure that your identity is kept a secret from the very beginning. And then there are some concerns like, what if the cops judge me? What if they pass some remarks? I'll completely break down after that. So I say, I understand, but there is a women's cell that is trained specifically to deal with these kinds of issues, and you'll be dealing with only female officers. We'll make sure of it through the police commissioner, and make sure that you have the right care and support that you need to deal with this case. And sometimes they're like, okay, how do I cope with this financially? I might have to pay the lawyer and all. And of course, then I tell them, we'll support you financially. Don't worry about it.
Really? You do that too?
Yeah. I do what I can, man. So, and there's also, this, like, I just don't want them to feel like they don't have options, A lot of people.
But do you have like, I don't want to be rude or anything, but like, you supporting financially, does that depend on what type of case it is? Like,
generally some things I would prioritize over others.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I don't have infinite funds. I don't have anybody funding. I don't even have any financial ties with my family, and neither am I a techie. If I was like a software engineer on a 1 CR package or something, then I could spend all that money, right? But because I don't really need more than like 50K to live even a comfortable life. But 40-50K, but then I don't have that amount of an income, so I have to allocate my own funds responsibly. Generally, I prioritize mental health, and any sort of sexual harassment cases. So that kind of stuff I prioritize, and then after that, in case there's some violent case, like someone's facing violent threats, or their violence has already happened, they need medical support and things like that, then I prioritize that, and then everything else comes after. So anyway, that's my method. I try to get all the details whenever they're ready for it, and then I suggest them like multiple ways of going about it, and then finally whichever route they decide to go, I just go in and support them, in pursuing it through that channel.
I have a lot of questions for you. First, you've built a lot of connections to make sure that we'll go through this part of the police cell, and even if it's a blood bank example, to get you connect. So if I want to be a social worker and if I want to prioritize society and help people, how do I build these connections? What do I do to know these people?
Okay, so generally what I'll tell you what I've done, and then I will tell you what another person can, like a normal person can do. What I started doing was I started to see what sort of programs and events and drives were happening in the city, and I started joining all of them. So you go out and you sort of look it up on Facebook. You see, okay, is there a blood donation drive somewhere? So I'll go and donate blood. If there's like a food distribution, sort of a thing going on somewhere, I'll go and help them out with food distribution and contribute to it financially. If there is, this is what I did earlier. So, and then if there is, anywhere that I can go to, let's say if they're doing some cleanup drive of a certain area of the city, or, if they're doing a health camp for poor people, those kind of things. So I went to all these places as much as I could, because I really love doing it. And then I developed connections with the people that were involved in these organizations, doing the work that they were doing. So that's how I initially started, just giving back to the society as much as I could, and then also sort of making connections with the people that were already working in those fields. And then sort of learning the ropes from them, how things are done, how you sort of go about. So that's how I got my start. And then over a period of time, I was able to, meet with a lot of powerful people, develop connections with them through various, cases and things. Sometimes, it would be as simple as, running into them at a certain event and then talking to them, telling them what I do and understanding what they did, exchanging numbers, and then, just sort of maintaining a cordial relationship until I was able to. Then, of course, what I would suggest others, and I've posted about this on the subreddit as well, is to just sort of start taking care of the place you live in. If you, and by that I don't mean like your own flat or just your own society, but also the surrounding area, right? So if you go outside your apartment or your house and you see that there's some problem with the road, if you can actually take that up as your cause and go to BBMP or your MLA or your corporator and try to bring attention to that issue and try to get it resolved, then in the process you meet so many people, and they know you and you know them. So next time something happens, you can call them directly and say, hey, remember I called you, we got that pothole problem resolved. Now can you also resolve this tree branch is sort of falling, can you help us with this as well? And then slowly you build a rapport with them, and you also try to help them. So sometimes these guys also need your support with something, and I don't mean financially, like bribing them or whatever. I mean more in the sense that, like for example, we work a lot with the police stations here, right, in Indiranagar and Jeevan Bhima Nagar, like that's where I live. So we work a lot with the stations. So I recently completed a couple of very nice wall painting projects in Indiranagar. So the police stations,
the Wall of Freedom.
Freedom Wall.
Yes, Freedom Wall. Sorry,
Freedom Wall, yeah. And then there's another one dedicated to Karnataka called Karunada Kanmanigal. So so we've done that as well. So the cops, they were very happy to see this. They're like, can you also do something for our police station?
So, that's so sweet, right?
Yeah. So so currently we're working on some ideas to do it for their police stations. So and then recently one of the police stations, there were some very old pictures of freedom fighters there, which were just falling apart. They were in tatters. So we replaced them with new ones. So I literally got them designed, printed, framed, and then gave, and also I myself went and replaced all of them at the police
Right.
station. So if you think of these people as your own, you try to do something for them as well, help them out as well, do your bit for them as well, then you can definitely develop good connections. If it's always about taking from them, always calling only when there's a problem, then I don't think they're very open to helping you as well with yeah. So I generally try to have a two-way relationship with everybody that I work with. Everybody I know I'll be requiring the support of, and it helps, it works out. So just be a part of the community in the way you were supposed to be a part of the community, and everything else just sort of starts coming through after that.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people forget that you also have to give and not just take.
I remember an incident in my area. This is one of when I was I'd just come to Bangalore. A huge tree branch had sort of fallen on my cross, and obviously at that time, because it was a huge storm that had happened all over Bangalore, nobody was, and that time I was not really a very active social worker. I'd just come here. So I I saw that, and I figured nobody from BBMP was going to come. And then if anybody from this, because there's a lot of old people that live in my society, so if anyone has a medical emergency and they have to go out, they can't even leave, because this branch is right in the middle. Right. So I had this meat cleaver, like this heavy iron meat cleaver. So I took that and I went and started chopping it, that branch, that whole tree, trunk, whatever it was that had fallen. Yeah. I started chopping it myself, and I first cleared all the small branches, then I cleared the bigger branches, and then ultimately I hacked off, the main big branch. And as I was doing it, a lot of people started observing me, and 2-3 guys from the area came and they started helping as well. Eventually we got rid of it. We cleaned it completely in 3 hours. It took a lot of hard work, but we got rid of it completely instead of waiting for BBMP to come in and do something about it, which would have taken a couple of days.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. So just small things that you can do for your community. I think it's really fun.
That is really beautiful. Mike, I'm curious to know, I'm assuming most of that, the first contact people have with you is online?
Yeah. Although there are, I would say majority of people that I sort of help out are from Reddit and other online platforms.
Right. And I want to know, has there been a time or how do you know that people are not just taking advantage of you, and not solely dependent on you? If I have one problem, I'll come to you. My owner has this issue, then I have this mental issue, and I have this going on, that going on. So how do you make sure that you draw a line and say that I'm going to help you with this, and you're not going to cross it?
Yeah, so I'll just tell you an incident yesterday. There's somebody who has my number, right? And he went to MG Road, and of course he got stopped by cops because I don't know what rule he was not following, but there was something he wasn't following, or his number plate was not proper and stuff. And he just called me. And generally my rule of thumb is, if you've done something wrong, I can only give you advice. I can't help. If you are the one in the wrong, then I'm not going to help you. I'll tell you what you might do to get out of the situation, but I'm not going to help you because you're wrong, So this guy was wrong, but he's somebody who, has been, who I've also known personally for a while. So he called, he's like, the cops have stopped me. I'm really broke. I can't pay the fine, can you please do something? And I was like, okay, fine. And then I had my friend, because I don't speak Kannada very well. So I had another person I work with. I had him call. I told him, okay, this is what you tell the cop. And the guy called the cop. He told the cop something that we had to tell the cop. And then the cop let this guy go. And this guy was like, I'm so thankful to you. I would have been totally broke if I would have paid that fine. I would have no money to eat. I said, okay, dude, but just get those problems fixed with your bike, whatever it is. And, just don't make a habit of doing it. And I've helped you this time, which I normally wouldn't have, but I have because I know you know. But just don't do this next time. It's no, I'm just going right away to get it fixed fast. And then generally, there have been times when people have sort of, yes, you're right, they do try to take advantage of it to call me for frivolous things, and then I just adjust the level of support I can give them depending on the severity of the situation. Now, I've been around the block enough times to know when someone's just, goofing around and they're not really in need of any help. They're just too lazy to do something about it. And and then I know when people are genuinely going through issues. So then I just, adjust accordingly. It has just come with time. but I don't turn anybody down as such.
Okay.
Like I will at least give some words of advice, even if you're the one who's completely messed up. But yeah, I because I also have limited amount or
Yeah,
limited amount of time, so I
That makes
can't
sense.
be
Yes.
dealing with nonsense.
yeah.
Right. Now, Dushyant, on that itself, or taking a step back, in fact,
Hmm.
you deal with all of these things. Like it's not just one domain or one side that you're focusing on. There's a lot of things that you sort of tackle. So, for in terms of your mental health, also,
Mhm.
I'm sure at some point some things do take a toll. So, how do you address those things? How do you draw a line for that scenario?
Yeah, I mean, I get to hear a lot of very traumatic stories from people. Sometimes I have to extend a bit more support, in terms of like financials or in terms of, sort of meeting them and, talking to them and hearing it. And it can get a little heavy. You know how there are like doctors who work in trauma ward, right? Emergencies, and they just get used to the gore and all the
Right.
broken body
Right.
parts and things like that. So they get desensitized about it over a period of time. But I'm not like that. Like every time someone goes through something and they're actually suffering from a certain predicament, I end up really feeling that, and the way I sort of deal with it is, for me, the way to deal with it is to help them and to know that I have done enough to help them, and that I've done whatever I reasonably could to help them out, and that sort of helps me deal with hearing all these kinds of stories. But yes, it is heavy, man, and I certainly feel like I could use a lot more therapy myself sometimes. Unfortunately, I don't really get enough time because of my these all the people that I keep helping out or working with, and then obviously my job as well. So unfortunately, don't really get enough time to deal with my own mental health. But I feel like I have it in an okay space right now, and as long as I continue to do what I do, I think I'll be all right. That's what I think. It's not a qualified mental health professional's opinion by
Yeah,
any means,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm just getting by. I feel like I'm okay for now.
I want to know about how you've built your personality, because you could be a social worker, you could do a lot for the society, but like dealing with, especially, let's for example, not especially, but for example, let's say sexual harassment cases, you have to listen. You have to be someone who listens to them, understands them, gives them the space if they need it, or be there for them the way
Yeah,
they want you to.
yeah.
Did that come over time, or was it very natural for you? Because not a lot of people can listen. They can help, but they can't listen. They'll give you solutions, like you said. So what do we do next? What do we do? But
Mhm.
they won't be there to listen. So what have you done, or is it natural for you, or has the personality to listen and help them the
Mhm.
way, has that come over time?
Yeah, so I actually, when I first started dealing with these kinds of issues, or rather, when I got the first sort of, when I had my first interaction with somebody who had these kinds of issues that required more listening. Like, for example, if somebody has, like I said, like they got into a fight with some other guy on their street, that doesn't require too much listening. There are some basic facts that you need to be aware of, and then that's it. Sometimes they are traumatized. They want to really say, I'm feeling very sad and lonely and all that, and that sort of mental state they might be in. But generally, for most issues, it's not required. But then when I first dealt with somebody who was a victim of sexual harassment,
Wait,
I
can I interrupt you and
yeah,
ask you, your first case, when you knew that it was related to sexual harassment, did you question yourself if you can take care of this? Like if
yeah,
you can.
I do it all the time. Like even now,
Mhm.
when I'm listening to somebody, tell me about their case, I'm very, how do I say, like I don't want to step into that counselor,
Right.
territory,
Okay.
because I'm not qualified. So if
Right.
somebody starts expecting that sort of support, then I connect them with
Okay.
a mental health
Oh,
professional.
perfect. Right. Right.
I
Makes
just
sense.
draw the line there. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not qualified to talk about this.
Right.
I'll tell you what I feel on a very basic level. I'll tell them, I'll say, but listen, I think you need to talk about this with somebody who will be able to help you professionally. So I'll connect you with, like a mental health professional. I'll get you in touch and you can take things forward from there. And don't worry about, and if they can pay for it, good. But if they can't pay, I also tell them, listen, I have very limited resources to pay. So please only take it if you genuinely can't. So
Right.
some people can't, some people can. So then they take it forward accordingly. So anyway, when I first got this kind of a case, I actually spoke with a mental health professional who was a friend of mine, and I asked her, like, what are my do's and don'ts for dealing with a person who's been through trauma of this nature, and any sort of like severe trauma. What is the way that I speak with them, and how, like you said, listening is a big part of it. So they took me through the whole like process, and then I'm over a period of time, I think I've been able to get better at it. And it helps to keep going back to my friend and then just asking her, like, this is the kind of thing that issue that this person's conveying to me. What do you think I should say to make them feel better? Again, without stepping into the therapist territory. Just whatever I can do as a friend.
Right.
And the person or the group of people that I speak with, who are mental health professionals, I feel like they've been very helpful in making me understand what I need to do.
There's something I've noticed. So even when you were talking about your past experiences, the things you've seen through online, the first stream that happened when you were 16 and 17, you remember their names. And it's something I've noticed, how you remember names, and it's happened. I mean, I'm not saying you're old. I'm just saying it's happened.
It's been a long time, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And
like half my life ago, yeah.
Why is it important for you to do this?
I feel like it's very important to understand, if you're a social worker, or if you're somebody who's in any sort of a position where you're expected to support people
Right.
who you don't know, right off the bat. Like if you're a friend, you've known your friend for years, or a long period of time, and you sort of understand them, on an interpersonal level. But when you're doing social work and you just come across somebody randomly, I feel like it's important to understand them a little bit better before you can start to tell something. You can start to tell them something, or give them advice, or because not that I need like a very deep interpersonal connection to give out like normal advice, but the better I know them, the more I'm able to understand why they are reacting in a certain way.
Right.
So knowing their names, and also sort of understanding maybe a little bit about their background, it goes a long way. Because what let's say, like I have dealt with people who come from poor and impoverished and underprivileged backgrounds. On a very regular basis I deal with people like that, and what their resistance, or their sort of ability to deal with regular issues is a lot higher than a privileged person's ability to deal with regular issues. So let's say what a privileged person might be complaining about could be in reality, like, or rather what it would seem to me is a frivolous issue, but the fact that they have grown up with that privilege hasn't exposed them to that level of struggle. But for someone like that who has exhausted all his options, and now he's coming and all he's saying is, sir, can you please help me get a job? So but the magnitude of that problem is a lot higher than That's why I think it's important for me to understand the person a little bit before I attempt to solve that problem.
I think that's beautiful. I think the second you name those two guys from when you were 15 to 16-year-old, I really wanted to know why you do it. And I think it's really important to, I mean, you're helping them in the end, but it's also important to build that personal connection, even if that's limited, for them to know that you're there and you're human, you're helpful, but you're still there. So yeah, Freedom Wall. Why? So it's a 400. So why you did that in the first place, and why the QR code and everything, the idea behind it.
Yeah, so I have a couple of friends, who I hang out with, and we've done some social work together in the past as well. Samir and Satyajit, their names are Satyajit Indramo and Samir Kulkarni. So we used to hang out, and whenever we'd hang out, we'd talk about what else can we do. We already do this and this. Now what else can we do? And what happened was that so in front of my house, like it's just a lane that has a dead end, and the dead end is a school. Okay. And it's a school where generally more like poor kids go, because it's a convent school, like a mission school. So it doesn't have much of a very high fee and all. So the poor kids go there. But as they would walk to the school, the wall, so there's a boundary wall, and then there are buildings, right? So the boundary wall belongs to the C.V. Raman Hospital. It's a general hospital, government hospital. So the walls were completely bland, and all they had was like like moss growing on them and stuff. They didn't even have like a coat of primer on it. Just blank walls. So we looked at those walls and like, man, there are so many kids that walk through this place. It would be nice to put some inspirational figures from our history on this wall, so that kids could at least have some inspiration and they could learn about some freedom fighters or inspirational figures from history. And so that was the idea. That was how it originated. And then once we got this idea and we wanted to do something about it, we made a presentation. Obviously, me being in marketing, presentations come easy. So I made a presentation about the whole idea that I had. And I, basically was the creative director of the entire project. So I, designed the whole thing, and I mean, it like as a concept. And then we went to the MLA of our area, who was S. Raghu of the C.V. Raman Nagar constituency. So we went to him, and we took his time. We went to him and we explained to him what the whole project was, and we said, this is what we want to do. And he's like, oh. And there were only 20 paintings that we wanted to do at that time, the murals. So he saw that and he was like, why don't you do this is really great. He really loved the idea. He's like, this is really great. I'm glad you guys are doing this, but why don't you do the full wall? So he basically wanted us to do, so it went from 20 murals to like 60 murals. Okay.
Right.
Like, wow. Why don't you guys do the whole thing? And you were like, we didn't know we could do the whole thing. We had no idea that, this is something that we never even thought of. We just wanted to do this wall. It's like, no, you do the whole thing. Now, so what do you need? We said, just the permission. He's like, how are you going to do the finances? We said, for this small wall, we were going to pool in money from our own pockets, right? They're like, now that the project scope has increased, perhaps we'll try to crowdfund it or something. He's a very nice guy. He said, no, don't worry about the money. I'll finance it. You just do the work.
Wow, right. Wow.
So, yeah, he knew us from before. So, he sort of knew that these are all good guys and, they're going to do good work. So then we started and, we made a whole list of people that we were going to put on the walls. We kept out the people who were already very famous, because we didn't want to, because those guys are everywhere. Like for example, Mahatma Gandhi is already everywhere. What are you going to do, adding like a small mural of him? That wouldn't mean anything to his legacy. But if you instead add the mural of, let's say, Keladi Chennamma, who nobody knows or very few people know, then that means a lot to her legacy, that a mural of her exists in Indranagar, right? So that's how we sort of had a sort of filtration criteria. And we came up with a list of 60 people. And now 40 out of those 60 people are already there. We were waiting for some permission from the metro authorities, which we are going to get in a day or two. So then the remaining 20 will also be there. So that's kind of the story of the Freedom Wall. And at 40, we sort of like took it as the completion of the project, because metro permission was taking a long time. So after that, the response from people has been really phenomenal, man. Like, it's covered in pretty much every media outlet.
Oh, it's beautiful to look at, by the way. You guys should check it out. If you guys are in Bangalore or coming to Bangalore, you guys should check it out for sure. Yeah.
It's at Indranagar, near the Vivekananda Road metro station. And it's got 40 murals. It's called Freedom Wall, but it's not just about freedom fighters. It's about everybody who's responsible for the freedom of India in all different sectors, in some way or the other.
Right.
Yeah. So if you think about Sir M. Vishweshwaraya, right? So you can say that he's responsible in his way for being for India's engineering independence, right? India being independent in terms of engineering. He's given the inspiration, and also he's shown the way from the multiple projects that he has done, including the KRS Dam. So he showed Indians that you can do this. This is something we can do ourselves. So he's responsible for freedom in his own way. Now, if you think about somebody like, let's say, Aryabhatta, right? Ancient astronomer. You can say that he has been responsible for India's scientific independence, because if we didn't have this great person in our history, then we would have had to go, look to the West for their scientific knowledge. Similarly, Sushruta, who's the first surgeon in the world, right, who actually invented cataract surgery. So we've got so many people in our history who've been responsible for our freedom in different ways. So freedom was not just about the 1947 political freedom that we got, but also it's about a lot of other sectors where we are free, independent, and are able to do things indigenously. And it's about the people who are responsible for that. So,
That is beautiful. I love talking to you. I
That's
feel like I could
beautiful,
talk to you and listen to you forever. All your stories and everything that you think and all your opinions, they're really important for people to know. And I hope that you continue to do what you do. And there are a lot more people that join you, people like us, people our age who join you and help the society just get a lot better and help human beings, just help each other. And not just human beings, but everyone, like animals. But yeah, help the society get much better. Dushyant, I wish I could talk to you forever. But this is how we end our episodes. Are you a tea or a coffee person?
generally coffee.
Damn it, I had hope from you. For some reason, everyone we call on a coffee person. The only two people on our chart who are tea people are the both of us. And we have had 70
Yes.
plus guests. But yes, Dushyant, thank you so much for joining in. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Like it really has. It has taught me a lot of things, and I'm sure I'm going to implement them and take it forward for the rest of my life, guys.
Yeah.
Please. Oh yeah. So if someone wants to connect you, how would they do that? So that we can.
Okay, so you can connect with me on Reddit. It's st_saint_Broseph. You can DM me on Reddit. If you want to approach me on Twitter, my handle is Desibrach, DESIBRAH. Just DM me on either of these platforms, and I'll give you my phone number, and we can figure it out from there. So that's generally how I do. I don't give my phone number out in public.
Oh yeah,
because,
makes sense. I mean, completely.
So,
Perfectly
but yeah,
makes sense.
I am hoping to start. I'll probably start a website very soon.
Right.
I've already have a domain name for it, where I will actually put out like a form and have a proper CRM system in place where if whatever problem you have, you can go there and register that issue, get your phone number verified and all that, so that I can then address your issue and I can keep track of all the cases there are and keep updating them like any CRM system would. So I'm working on that right now. Hopefully it will be up very soon, and then we'll be able to do things in a more systemized manner. So, yeah.
That is beautiful, guys. We'll put the Twitter and the Reddit links in the description below. Dushyant, before we finish off, I just want to tell you that you are a real life superhero. Like you should know that. You think you're not doing a big thing and you're happy with both helping them and helping them get through the adversities, but you should know that what you're doing is a very, very big deal, and that not a lot of people do it even though they should, and that you should know that. Yeah, you just should know that. Yes. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Yo, thanks for tuning into the latest episode of Just Baatein. We hope you enjoyed it and that it left you inspired. Thanks for all your support, and maybe you could support us just a little more by maybe going to our Instagram and Twitter and giving us a follow there. And also you can listen to us on all podcasting platforms, right from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to Google Podcasts. Cheers.